Hey, I am again doing an Armies on Parade. This time I'm going to show you my Partisans. My whole collection is lined up in a huge parade here, and I'm going to talk about the different units and what happened. I've already done videos about this because it was a project that happened while I was YouTubing. So, the project started here. These are my cavalrymen for my Partisans. These are my Cossack cavalry. They are Paraminiatures American Civil War. Come on, focus. Paraminiatures American Civil War horses and legs, and the torsos are mostly Peri Duck because I wanted these guys to be Axis Cossacks. I didn't want to build a Soviet army at that point, so I wanted something different. You'll also notice the bases here, which are very, they stand out. They're a yellowish brown with bits of red in them. These were inspired by old Blueberry comics, where the background often is very, very distinctive because it's so, fade blue or red or yellow. I wanted something that would stand out. I didn't want something that was realistic. I wanted something that would stand out, that would make the models pop. This is what I did then for that. So the project started with me just wanting to do something where I didn't have to paint green. I'm red-green colorblind, which means that painting camo is it doesn't really excite me. So I wanted to paint something that was blue, something that was had whites in it or something else, and I really enjoy painting horses. I know a lot of people don't. I do. I like painting horses. This is my officer, by the way. Of course, on a white horse, because you gotta. I also use these two guys here, a trumpeter and an ensign, as my NCOs. And I made a bunch of these guys with rifles. Some of them actually firing the rifles from horseback because Cossacks. Right. So they started the project for me. I found some images of Cossacks in Axis service, and I was like, yeah, I'm building that. And that was the first unit that. And I even started the project before I got the rest of the army. I just started assembling. I cut up a box of American Civil War cavalry that I had, and then just started assembling that, painting that, because that was what excited me first. This was really down to just me wanting some different palettes on my wet palette for a time. So that started the whole project, which turned into an army. I think normally I use quite a lot of this cavalry, but I think actually I need 8 more guys because I want to be able to field a whole 1,200 points. So at some point I'm going to build more of these cavalrymen. I'm already looking forward to that. You can tell, right? Right. I'm going to take you to the next bit, which is my small teams and transport section. And this is it. Right. So this is my teams and transport section. I just want to start by pointing out these little bases here, which are they are my partisan bombs, all of them scratch built, and here we have a couple of sticks of dynamite with a glowing fuse. It felt so whimsical. I enjoyed that, building that. Here we have a mine that's been tripwired to this little gauger over here. Again, I've used different kits. Some of it is 40k stuff. This mine is a bottle cap. All of it works really well. I've placed it next to a bunch of junk because I wanted it to fit into the bases, the urban and yellowish bases that I have for all my partisan army here. So and here we have a little timed bomb here. Again, some 40k stuff is in that. It's next to a trash can, and behind that trash can is a very famous picture of a guy with a mustache, which I don't want to show because of YouTube. So he's going to get blown up when this blows, which I find kind of funny. So these were like scratch built, kit bashed, and put together, and I really enjoyed that process. It's nice to have a little creative process. And then I needed a couple of guns. These I wanted to be able to field in multiple armies, like going forward if I need an extra gun for one of my armies. I just wanted to be a generic color. So I painted them up in sort of the same gray tone that I'm going to use, that I use for the rest of my partisan army here. So it's a bluish gray, and I put a little bit of metallics in this paint for the gun here as well. Just a simple base coat and a wash, and a little bit of dabbling with a sponge, and then I had a couple of guns. These are 3D prints. Don't actually know the manufacturer of these, but they work out really well. I have 2 of them. These are my howitzers. And then I have my small teams. I have a mortar team here with a scratched built mortar. Built, I think, like the bottom half here is actually some part from the bipod of a machine gun. I really enjoy scratch building stuff, where I just take other bits and make it into something. And the crew here for this is all peri-miniatures, dark people sitting down with a couple of, like a head from the partisan pack here. And these are quite indicative of the color palette of what I was using for my partisans. So bluish gray and a greenish, light brown, yellowish uniform color, and some dark browns for some of the other stuff here as well. Black for the belts. That was the palette that I was going for. I have a sniper here with a spotter. The spotter got a pair of binoculars from my dark pack. And this is just one of the guys lying down in the dark pack, because what is a sniper? It's a guy with a rifle, right? Sometimes they had like scopes. This guy, you can't tell. Flamethrower here. This guy, the flamethrower, has actually moved over from my my Czechoslovakians into my partisans, because I have too many flamethrowers in my Czechoslovakian army. So he was initially painted up for the Czechoslovakians, and I just gave him this guy, who I'm imagining is a butcher by trade, and now he's the loader for my flamethrower. I don't know why, but I've seen a butcher wearing more or less this jacket and that hat at some point. So so he's my butcher who's now loading the flamethrower. This, of course, is the partisan flamethrower, so it runs out on a 1 and 2. And then, because you can take it, there's a bazooka team here. This has bits from the Warlord Games American Army pack. So the arms are maybe a little bit bigger, but not noticeable when you're just sticking them all together. And of course the bazooka itself is from that pack as well. Yeah, I know I'm playing these as Axis partisans, so they would not have access to a bazooka, but, well, the Germans built their own version of it, the Panzerschreck, and I think the Hungarians also had a bazooka derivative thing. So who cares, right? This is my bazooka. And then my lovely Transport section over here. These are used mostly for the small teams, so the bazooka team will go in one of my cars, civilian cars, and the flamethrower team in the other. And if I need to, I can always transport my guns using a horse-drawn limber. This is a Rubicon horse-drawn limber. I have several of these, all made up so that I can remove the horses and shift between different wagons depending on what I want on the day, which, it's nice to be able to choose. I also, for a limber, I also have this little donkey here as my mule team, if I want to go that route. That was, again, joyful to paint. This was donated to me by my friend Benny, who had bought like 4 or 5 donkeys. How many donkeys do you need, right? You seldom have more than one mule team anyway. So, the cars here are all old toy cars, which I stripped. And then I got a little bit of help from my friend David, who's a really good painter, and he owns an airbrush. So he airbrushed the base colors onto these, and then I went to work with with pens, brushwork. I'm really pleased with how the headlights turned out, and the little over here, the number plates that I got. These are all old Soviet or old Ukrainian number plates. So I really tried to make sure that this fitted into the theme. Of course, this truck here has a pintle-mounted machine gun, a German MG, which I kit-bashed from an old box of Warlord Germans that I have lying around, and magnetized so it can go on and off as I wanted. Maybe sometimes I want a pintle-mounted machine gun on my truck. Maybe sometimes I don't. So, always nice to magnetize. Again, the civilian cars are different old toy cars. I really enjoy going to flea markets and picking up old toy cars. This one here, again, repainted by myself and by David Hasselfeld. Again, I'm really happy with the headlights here. Made a little, again, license plate. Once I had stripped this and base coated it, and it was painted, I gave it this poster here of a Ukrainian beer brand. So it's Cossack beer, which sort of fits in with my Cossack horseman, right? This one I really like. I like the brightness of the white and yellow. I was actually browsing through the internet, found old like 1920s, 30s cars, and we like took that as our inspiration for the paint job here. Again, really like how the headlights and the license plate turned out. Surprising amount of brushwork still to do once you have an airbrushed car like this. And if you're doing it, remember to make sure you block out the window screens unless you want to paint those as well. Right. These 2 cars will go in most of my lists because it's just nice to have something to transport at least your flamethrower, and quite often my bazooka as well. The truck will sometimes get a place in the list, sometimes not, depending on what I feel like and what I'm bringing. So let me take you to my infantry, just the next bit here. Right, this is all my infantry. This is all the infantry I've made so far. I may at some point need to make a bit more of these guys. This is my pistoleros, and you can see I have a whole bunch. I think I have, what is that? Yeah, I have way more than the 20 pistoleros that I actually mostly need. Yeah, that would be that, right? So most of the time these are used in a 20-man squad, but I actually found that such large squads sometimes they have such a huge footprint that yeah, they become unwieldy. So I'm going to experiment with smaller, like 10, 11 man squads, 12 man, and then get 2 of them in most of my lists. Most of these are Wargames Atlantic Partisans, the French Partisans, which I had given different heads and just scrounged as many pistol armed arms as I could from all kinds of different kits. Some of them are from the American Civil War Cavalry that you just saw. This one has a Warlord Games Soviet head. Here we have one with a American Civil War revolver. A little old for World War II, but hey, some of them will have stuck around, won't they? And I just needed so goddamn many pistols for this unit. It was insane, and I'm going to need more. So that's always interesting, to say the least. Here is my NCO for the unit. Definitely looks the right Nazi, right? Really happy how this paint job turned out, and he is holding a, what's that, a Luger, I think. Again, I have some of the bases have gotten little bits of broken bottle and little resin bottles that I gave little like brand labels on them, miniature brand labels that I actually printed and cut out and put on the bottle so that it's beer bottles, right? Here is my SMG armed troops. I knew that I wanted some because I wanted to be able to field at least a couple of officers or NCOs who had SMGs, and potentially field veterans armed with SMGs. Some of these are from Wargames Atlantic, right? This is a Wargames Atlantic German sentry with the Schaefer dogs. I'm really happy how those dogs turned out. Beautiful kit. Here's my other NCO. He is also holding the leash of a Schaefer dog. German Shepherd, I think it's called in English. Again, a few bottles placed next to him. And then just, bunch of different models. Make sure I have the machine guns on all of them. This is a duck with a Cossack head. And these guys are very, very useful. Mostly they are like I'm using. Oh, and by the way, look at this guy. He's sitting with a little cafe table turned over as a bit of cover here. And this guy has the chair for that same kit. Right. Now I'm using these as my veterans, SMG armed veterans, which I have fielded in tournaments. They haven't done amazingly well so far. They've died more than they've killed, but they are very, very dangerous and very, very survivable. And this is my rifleman. At some point, I may also need to build a few more riflemen. But again, I'm really happy with the Wargames Atlantic kits. They turned out really nicely, lend themselves well to the color, and I enjoy not having combat poses for everything that I built, right? Sometimes it's just, people walking along with a gun in their hand. So a lot of these are just advancing with weapons at the ready. Some of them are even in like parade ground pose. And I did something which I think is very clever. I knew I wanted to field these often as late war regulars, because late war regulars can take Panzerfausts. So what I did was I drilled a little hole in my Mini, and you can't really see it now. There's a hole and a magnet in his back, and then I put the head of a Panzerfaust on a little metal stick, printed out the actual Panzerfaust instructions, and then ta-da! So on a couple of these, I can actually put on a Panzerfaust if I want them to have the Panzerfaust, and once they've shot the Panzerfaust, I can take it off and remove it, and then the model is still good to go. I think that's really good, really clever way to do that. So yeah, that I enjoy that a bit. Surprisingly, I find magnets really useful. A couple of years ago, I was like, no, I'll never use magnets. I don't care. I'll just assemble my minis. But I've been really persuaded by the utility of magnets here. Now, that was the whole army, but it wasn't the whole project. I have one final bit to show you. Come over here. And this is it. This is my movement tray, my tournament tray, my display board for my Partisans. It's just based on the lid of a box for, what was that? Some sort of like food containment, like keeping stuff warm or cold or something. And I just, because it was foam, I could work with the top of it. So I did exactly the same as I've done with my bases. And then I scratch built some fencing. I scratch built some signposts. Let me just show you the signposts here. You see? Where I printed some, like it says Odessa one way and Chernihiv the other, I think, maybe. I'm not really good with Cyrillic letters. I then scattered all bits of newspapers that I had scaled down and printed around the place. So like newspapers would be blown across the street here. The street at the end has been blown up or broken up, and then I just built this. It even includes like small potholes to the sewers and a bunch of posters along the walls here, which are a mix of Soviet, Ukrainian, and German posters. I wanted there to be like all of it intermingled, because the project was always going to be like the Axis-aligned Ukrainian partisan army here, right? Final bit was the flag post here, which was a kit that I think I traded this kit at some point. I think it's part of Rubicon's like extra battlefield accessories or something. So it's a telephone pole, but I attached some metal wires to them to represent the telephone lines, which had definitely been cut at this point, broken up, and then added a banner, which is the Ukrainian UPA World War II banner. So that was my army on display. This was my Ukrainians. The whole project took about a year to complete. I'm not the world's fastest painter, nor like, and I had to wait quite a lot for bits of it to arrive, because I had to order like the Wargames Atlantics. I had to order those, and I had to wait, and then suddenly the Wargames Atlantics German Sentries came out, and I was like, yeah, those will definitely work as my regulars. So I had to wait for those to finally come out, pre-order them, and then get a box of them, and so it all took a while, but I'm really happy I got there in the end. Right, that was the army. See you next time. Cheers.